Which of these is correct? What will the Messiah say when he returns? A, B, or C? A says, depart from me, you who practice keeping the law. B, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness, unless you were born after my resurrection. C, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Yeah, C sounds like something he would say. And to me, we have to hear his words. It's something that I never really thought of before. And I'm reading Paul's words, and he says there's a mystery of lawlessness at work. And I used to really twist a lot of things that Paul said to say what I wanted it to say. And a lot of people do that, and there's a lot of things he says that are very confusing. But I don't think when he says these words, we're going to go, you need to read Galatians. You need to understand what this preacher over here said about Paul's words. But we know he's going to say, depart from me, those of you who practice lawlessness. And that word lawlessness, I always thought of it as somebody who was just, all they were doing was sinning all the time. But it says, when you look up the original meaning of that word, the utter disregard for God's law. And I was taught to just utterly disregard it. If I don't, I'm doing away with the sacrifice of the Messiah. Right. And I believed that for years and years and years and years. And a lot of people think when you start keeping all 10 commandments, or when you start looking at what the law says, that you're trying to go back to old ways, as if the Holy Spirit isn't good enough, as if now I want to be, justified by works. And I'm sure you guys hear those things all the time. And it's not about that. The Holy Spirit was good enough, is good enough. If I was to start keeping the Sabbath and the Holy Spirit left, then I'd be like, what's going on? It doesn't happen that way. The Holy Spirit continues to work when you keep His commandments. His Spirit was at work with me before because He knew I was sinning in ignorance. That's what atonement was for in the beginning. That's what it's for now, sinning in ignorance. There's that word iniquity again. He says it again in Matthew chapter 13. He says, the Son of Man shall send forth His angels, and they shall gather out of His kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity. It's the same word, utterly disregarding the law. And so I just don't think He would be a good judge if He was saying, depart from me, those of you who are practicing not keeping what I abolished. It would not make sense. And He says here in John chapter 14, he that loveth me not keepeth not my sayings, and the word which ye hear is not mine, but the Father's which sent me. They were His words, just like in Deuteronomy 18. And then we see in 1 John, he says it's the love of God that we keep His commandments. And His commandments are not grievous. It's not for the justification that we do this. It's for love. It's out of love.